I'm the girl on the website. I just got a fade now. That's really the only difference. Hey, girl. My name is Anaïs. I graduated in May of 2022. I was a geography major and I had a minor in social justice with a focus on urban studies. Listen, I love geography so much, okay? I love maps. Geography is the earth, like the physical earth, the environment. Geography is also geopolitics. Like I was a big history kid growing up. I've always been a how does everything work person, and yet when I came to Meriwash, I wanted to do computer science. But I ended up in geography. It was just a gen ed. Took cities freshman year with Dr. Patterson. Shout out to Dr. Patterson. The class literally just focused on cities, and my group had the West. And the city that I picked was Los Angeles. And I really sat down and I just did a deep dive. But I think the big thing for me is that it made me feel the exact same way I felt as a kid. So that's how I got to geography. And so I took another class and I was like, this is pretty nice.
How did you get into the project of the Civil Rights Trail? Can you explain what that project was and your part in it?
So the final project itself was a story map. And essentially what a story map is, it's a map that tells a story. Mapping out the Civil Rights Trail of the city of Fredericksburg is a project that was birthed during peak like 2020 by Miss Victoria Matthews of the Office of Tourism. She first reached out to Mr. Williams, who works here at the JFMC. And their goal was really to just tell the Black history of Fredericksburg. And a lot of the figures that we talked about, that we highlighted in the narrative, are still alive. I remember at the ceremony, I was literally sitting in front of someone who had desegregated a school. But it's a really amazing project, and I fell upon it almost kind of out of curiosity. I went in to go see Mr. Williams, and then he told me about the project, and the project here at Meriwash was spearheaded by Dr. Steve Hanna. I reached out to Dr. Hanna, and so that's how I started. An important thing that I want to mention is that during fall 2021, I started looking a lot more into archives. Just went on literally like Internet Archives, and I typed Mayor Washington, and I found so much stuff. I very shyly posted it on Instagram, and it got received pretty well. From that, I just found love into archiving, and so I knew that that was a part that I really wanted to bring to the project. And so a lot of my work was finding those pictures, and another important thing that I really wanted to make sure that I did was make it accessible.
What did that feel like to see a finished product like that?
I felt like I got my flowers while I could smell them, and I got to enjoy them. I got to put them in the vase and look at them and say, this is the work that I've done. It was really, really meaningful.
Now we're gonna take a shift. We know you as Anaïs. The majority of the people who see Mary Washington know you as the person on the poster board. Can you tell us about how that happened?
That picture was taken fall 2021. I was literally in the HCC, first floor. I was like, all right, let me just pull out my laptop, try to get some work done. And I was wearing the shirt, and the shirt in the picture, you see it, it says, I don't plan my life. And there's a marketing team, and I see them talking to people, taking pictures, but I was not concerned. I kept to myself. Lady reaches out to me. She's like, hey, like, I really like your shirt. She's like, can we take a few pictures of you? I was like, okay, because in my head, it's like, those pictures won't go anywhere. Spoiler alert. This happens in maybe end of November 2021, spring semester 2022. One day I'm like, oh man, like I need to check something on Banner. So I just type umw.edu and I see my face and I literally just stopped because what's going on? The year went on, it was funny with the friends, we moved on, time went on. Towards the end of summer, I have a friend, she texts me like out of the blue. My mom's about to fly out of Richmond and she just saw you. There is no way you just saw me. And she sends me a picture and it is that same picture of me smiling at the Richmond airport. 2 weeks after that, I have friends who are like, hey, like I just saw a picture of you on the billboard. I would die if I was going 75 on I-95 and saw my face on there. That exit, that ramp before Belvedere, I'm right on there. And I was driving with Zoe and I was like, you have got to take a picture because this is insane. And after that, I got some friends up in Northern Virginia hopping on the metro bus. Hey, here's a picture of you. I think it's really interesting just to see how marketing works. But for me, it's also, is this the face that sells? Like what's going on? Because I know you did it with other students. Was it me? Was it my radiant smile? Probably. But my first thing was like, where is my check? Because if I'm modeling, I might as well get paid for it. But it's also not one of those things that you think about because why would it happen to me? And then, you know, I look at myself and I look at how I present myself and the intersectionality that makes who I am. And you also understand the social political climate that we live in and you're like, okay, this is what it looks like. it looks like I'm your diversity hire. I didn't want to be a monolith for blackness at Mayor Wash. All of the black people that I knew at Mayor Wash, we have a lot in common. None of them are like me. So that is why I also want those stories to be elevated. They are just as important. They are just as relevant as mine.
The next question, which is how do you define Black Mary Washington?
Black UMW is a space that is so important to the Mayor Washington community now. I'm really glad that it exists and that it'll be fostered and carried onto hopefully the next generation. It was really nice to see other black people who we were actively struggling through the same things and had a lot of experiences in common, but also were able to prepare each other for those experiences. But Black UMW, you can also easily get lost in it. Really what I mean by that is that the school, especially a small school like this one, when you are someone who is more extroverted, it is easier for you to get your voice heard. And in a space like UMW, you almost become, I am the voice of. It's a difficult environment to be in because you are now faced with something that is like, I also want to stand out. If all of my black peers are trying to stand out, I also want to try to do something, even if you're not really motivated to. As I've grown, as part of the Mayor Washington community, I've seen that Black UMW was very essential. Still, at the end of the day, it is important to have a community like this one. And I'm glad I'm in it. I'm glad I was a part of it. I'm glad that I can say that this is how this group helped me be where I am now, as at the time like a graduating senior, and now as a geographer, as an activist, as an archivist, as the coolest person you know. How many black geographers do you know? None. That's always why I say I am the best and only black geographer that you know.
That was literally
Cut.